Hi, I'm Andrew Cain, State Politics Editor at the Richmond Times-Dispatch, and with me is my colleague, politics reporter Dave Rest. We're here to talk about Tuesday night's debate between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Of course, this comes about 75 days after the June debacle in which President Biden's faltering performance led to a transformation in this contest with Democrats coalescing around the vice president after President Biden dropped out. So, Dave, both of these candidates have a lot at stake, and they're both needing to walk something of a tightrope, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's funny. It reminds me when I was in high school, I was on the debate team. And so debates always, I'm always very conscious of how nervous one is going into it. But they definitely have to walk a tightrope. Kamala Harris has to walk one that includes things like, where are you on Gaza, Israel, where are you on immigration? Donald Trump has to walk one on, where are you on abortion, reproductive rights, and where are you on who won the 2020 election?
Right. So let's break this down a little bit. Vice President Harris, according to some of the analysts with whom we've spoken today, has to demonstrate that she's presidential. She needs to sort of walk a bit of a tightrope in that some of the polls show continuing unpopularity for the Biden administration. So she has to sort of show fealty to the administration in some respects while being her own woman, her own candidate.
Yeah, basically, vice presidents are not usually the dominant force in a presidential administration. And so she's been really not really well known. A key thing that I've been hearing from the analysts I've talked to, you think you've heard the same, is to some extent the debate is about, hey, who is this Kamala Harris? What does she really think? Is she Biden in a different form, which would work well with part of the electorate, but not so with another part? Figuring out how to define yourself and all of that is not going to be that easy.
Right, and like Trump, which we'll get into, she has changed her position on a few issues. One of them, fracking, is an important issue in Pennsylvania, of course. She once said that she'd be in favor of a ban on fracking. She now no longer feels that way. Similarly, there was talk of an electric vehicle mandate, which she backed at one point. She's sort of stepped away from that now. But former President Trump's got his own issues, right?
Well, primarily, I think they turn on abortion. One of the things that's become very clear after Kamala Harris got the nomination is that abortion is once again kind of a leading issue that Democrats will be talking about up and down the ballot. I mean, we see it in congressional races as well. And President Trump has to sort of walk this line of saying, I appointed the judges who overturned Roe v. Wade. That's got a lot of Americans upset, particularly women voters who are going to be kind of decisive. He's trying to say, well, this is all about returning it to the states, but he's running with the guy J.D. Vance, who's been talking about national policies on abortion, and he's gone back and forth on that Florida
6-week
referendum, the 6-week issue. So, that's it gets to, I think, one of the things that people will be listening for in the debate, which is kind of credibility. If you change your position a lot, how are voters going to react? How are voters in Trump's base going to react if he's starting to sound more accommodative on access to abortion, at least in some states?
Yeah, and this isn't specifically abortion, but I think the former president surprised even some of the folks in his own party when he talked about perhaps the state picking up the costs of families dealing with in vitro fertilization.
Yeah. That's also something that makes the evangelical Christian supporters of Trump, who flock to him because of his stance on abortion and because of his stance on life issues, really nervous. Where is this guy coming from?
Yeah, and one of the issues that the vice president is going to have to be clear about is the border issue. Of course, Trump's been calling her the border czar, and she did have a high-profile role there in some respects. But there was a time when she was running with, I believe she said that she was in favor of decriminalizing some crossings, and now she has changed her view on that. So that's something that where Trump is going to try to hold her feet to the fire. But one of the big picture issues here is, Republicans have been saying privately, if not publicly, that there are issues that the former president could emphasize: inflation, the border. The question is, can he stick to the issues?
There's always that, yeah. There's always that. On the border, Harris does have a challenge of trying to explain what she says was her role in immigration is very hard to do, because it's kind of gets to something that Senator Cain talks about a lot, which is you got to deal with it at source, down in the Central American Triangle states. That's what she was trying to do. It's harder to explain that when people are worried about how many people are actually crossing the border in Texas and in California.
Right.
The question of where and how you prosecute people crossing the border has got some subtleties too. That, what do you do about families with kids? What do you do about minors crossing alone? What do you do about people who are claiming asylum, who may be claiming asylum because that's the way to get in, or may be claiming asylum because we all have a humanitarian concern about protecting people who are vulnerable?
So this will be interesting, given the sort of soundbite culture of debates. It's hard to cogently frame a policy in this kind of setting, but people will be looking to both candidates to make their views known in a sort of cogent, coherent fashion. We'll see who can do that.
I think a lot of it is actually they're looking kind of for style stuff. Does Harris look presidential? Does Trump seem focused? You're not going to get in the timed, minute, 2 minute, here's my position, here's my counter, here's my rebuttal. You're not going to get a lot of subtlety and a lot of analysis about issues where they really are kind of complicated. That's going to be one reason why I think some of the analysts we talk to aren't really expecting a lot of movement. All of a sudden, people are discovering, oh, I like the former president. Oh, I like the vice president.
Yeah.
A lot of it's kind of cast in stone right now.
As we saw with President Biden in June, you might not win via a debate, but you can
sure
lose.
can lose it, yeah.
So I'm sure that our viewers will be keeping an eye on the debate, and check back with us on richmond.com for some analysis after the debate is through. I want to thank my colleague Dave Rest for joining me, and we invite all of you to continue to follow our coverage on richmond.com and in the Richmond Times-Dispatch.